Welcome to the Totally Awesome Fishing Show. We're going to be trying to give you a few tips on stalking big trout in still waters. Now it's visual fishing. Here we are at Diva Springs in Hampshire. It's clear. It's definitely got some big fish. It had the previous, I think, 2 British records for brown trout and rainbow trout. Just enormous fish, over 20 pounds. So it does get some big fish. Average, obviously, probably more, 4 or 5 pounds, something like that. Still a nice fighting fish. Going to be using a regular fly rod and reel. But when it gets hot, you know, rainbow trout do not like hot water. They do not like warm water. They like cool water. Now, I recently did a survey here. I came over because I'm in Hampshire as well, and I did a survey with a Lowrance Elite 4 HDI unit, an echo sounder unit that allows you to scan on the bottom and record it and put it back in your computer. Do you know what? It's given me the cutting edge towards trout fishing here at Diva, because it's told me where the deep areas are. Obviously it shows me the contours, talk more of that later, but it also tells me where I think the springs might cut in from the feeder streams and underground. Now that cool area equals happier trout. Happier trout mean they're more likely to take Monsieur Le Graham's fly, and in this case I'm going to be using one of Sid Knight's Pearly Daddy patterns. Deadly here. There we go, just put it in the butt for you can probably see that one. That is about the most deadly fly I've been using. I have a feeling because it's clear I'm going to have to go to a white chomper, a tinsel chomper, when all else fails, anything that's small, sparsely dressed and heavily weighted to get it down to the depth the trout are at. I've already seen trout cruising around, I've had a couple of throws, total fisherman's disinterest in my fly. It could be offensive, I could take offence to that, couldn't I? But I won't, because I'm going to work my way around. I'm going to be targeting these areas that I've found using the echo sounder unit, and I think I might just come up with 1 or 2 real nice fish for you. And I'll give you some tips along the way. Let's get fly fishing. The 2 lakes at Diva Springs in Hampshire have long held the crown as being the place to go if you wanted to catch a really big brown or rainbow trout. And you can see why from these elevated shots here, looking down over the lodge. Fantastic setting there, but most important of all, clear water. And if you've got clear water, you've got the visual aspect of catching those fish, and that's most important if you want to stalk and look for individual fish, looking for the really decent sized trout. Now with the clear water you've got here, what you're going to need are 2 vital pieces of equipment. One is, no, not hair, still got some of that left, a long peak cap. That's going to shut down the surface glare. Now here's a tip. That underneath there is green, it's a darker green. If you get a black felt pen and you mark all this out in black, when you got this over here like this, that black will enable your pupil to open up even more, and you'll take more visual aspects of the fish. You can see more because your pupil is open wider. Now that's a standard procedure that a lot of bonefish people use, and I've done fly fishing for bonefish. So if you black that top, shut it right down, it will open your eyes up. I'll put a little curve in it as well, not because it's cool, because I want to shut out any side light. The other thing, obviously, a pair of polarising glasses. Now I can't wear the cool ones. I used to wear those nice sort of wraparound ones. I can't wear those anymore because I need spectacles. So these are prescription glasses. Ain't no good me wearing the nice pretty curved ones because I cannot see anything. I'll put these on. Woo! I can see the trout as good as anybody. So you need these as well. Here's another little tip. In very clear water, I find the standard, let's call them grey, standard grey polarising lenses work well. in slightly off-coloured water, there's a little tinge of colour, and it may be a sort of browny colour, then the brown ones seem to make those fish contrast out better. And I speak from experience for a lot of years bone fishing out on the flats, and if you get slightly off-coloured water, a lot of the professional guides also use what we call the amber-coloured lenses. So that's a tip for you there as well. Here I'm going to be using spectacles, but I can see with them as well. Okay, let's look at some of the places where you should expect to catch a trout. As well as the large lake at Diva, you've also got the small one, and if anything, the smaller lake provides a little bit of shelter from any form of breeze, which in turn gives you ripple on the surface. In the centre there are some stock ponds where they house, you know, a lot of their stock fish. They grow them on and then grade them through right through the year, fishing right through the year here. And then you can see, even from this huge height, which Mike is standing on a ladder, you can see there's some geese there. And just look at the clarity of the water, and of course that sunlight comes in and it makes for a very prolific weed growth. Okay, now here is the small lake at Diva. As you can see, there's a peninsula. That's where I did a lot of intros, a little seat there you can see. But one thing immediately that I got from doing that low and sounder reading, I put it into this Insight Genesis system, and you can see what it's sent me back. There's a deep hole here, there's a deep hole there. Now they are both, I believe, springs. But if I put into this system, I just click, which off the screen you won't see it. I'm going to click, I can pull it back a bit, you might be able to actually see it. There, right at the top. If I click contours up the top, I can have 10 feet, 5 feet, 3 feet. So let's go for 3 feet. There you can see it actually shows me a deeper channel running along here. Over to the right here is where you come into the fishery. So there's a nice deep channel that's always worth walking up and down this bank here on the right. Always worth going along there. Work your way. I'll just point it with that. You might be able to see it a bit better. That blue channel goes down, and down there there's a willow tree. There's a nice deep hole there, and you can already see the contours of showing me there's an extra line there. But way over on this side there's also possibly a tiny spring coming in there. I'm just going to click on that contours setting again, and I'm going to pull it down to contour lines every foot, every 12 inches. Wow, that's a whole lot different, isn't it? That is a lot different. It still shows you the deep holes here. You can see how it does drop away. It's probably gravel that's been washed out. There's an inflow stream comes in here. It could be that that's a bit deep. I've got 8, I guess it's 8 feet there. Another hole here about midway, just past level with the road. One in the corner, a real deep one here. But my opinion is these are cold water springs, and that would be a good place for trout to go, or indeed trout anglers if they're looking for trout in hot weather, because those trout are going to be very touchy. They're not going to want to move around a lot. They're going to like places like this, deeper holes, especially for the brown trout over here, and even there's a slight one, a slight hole there. That's where they're going to probably move through because they like that cooler temperature. I was fortunate to get out there with the echo sounder when there were no anglers on the boat and managed to get those good sounder readings. Now I've done both lakes. I've done the entire large lake, and I've also done a sonar recording there with the Lowlands unit of the smaller lake. Now a lot of it obviously you can see is shallow, just visually you can see it's relatively shallow. But although the weed grows up from the bottom of the lake bed, there's a good depth of water underneath that weed. So the actual depth right down to the bottom of the gravel, you know, is shown by the sounder. And you can see here how rich it is and how much weed is actually growing there. There on the right is a trout. You can see him laying down now. Look how close he is to the bottom. Absolutely trying to get down there, I believe, near the gravel span. There's another one. Just laying dead still, right down deep. Now, the browns are notorious for this, but rainbows, not normally. But in hot weather, you know, you will get this and go down looking for those springs. And near those springs as well, look at all the small fish here. These are small roach, and there are clouds and clouds and clouds of roach in there. All these fish are happy in a cooler water temperature. There's nothing like carp in there or tench. It's both species in the UK that like warm water. The roach, the trout, both brown and rainbow, do like cool water. And there's one I got really close to with the underwater unit in between rowing around doing the sounder readings. And look, he's always hanging around the weed. And that one is very, very deep and flashing around. But you can see the depth they're at. They're well down. They are not up near the surface. However, I was up near the surface, and this is the man doing all the work for you. What a job I do for a totally awesome fishing show. Okay guys, here's a classic bank of rushes along the edge. It's all been managed here, and there's little holes to fish from. You know, if you're not a great caster and you want a bit of clear ground for your fly line to clear away from your feet when you're shooting the line, go for those holes there. But failing that, never neglect the rushy areas. And out in front of me here is a big bank of weed. It grows up vertically, and when it grows up vertically, it just flops over like that. Now you think it's choked with weed, but if you can punch a fly through a gap in that weed, there, it's clear underneath. You just got to go down the sides of it. It's choked with weed, but it's not choked with weed. It could be choked with fish. What happens is it looks unfishable. In fact, I don't know what name this grass is, like a spear grass I call it. That type of grass will have fish in it. It comes up, it lays flat, the fish get under it on a sunny day for the shade. So don't neglect looking in there. Also, overhanging trees, overhanging bushes, willow trees. There's a willow tree in the corner. I'm going to have a look in there as well. Anything that gives you tips. And of course, I've got the bonus. I've got that survey report which is going to show me where the cold water springs are. A couple of places to fish. Now another thing, keep moving. If you can just keep on the move, you're constantly using the shadow line of the trees on the opposite bank to spot those fish. You're not going to find them here. Let me just turn the camera. That white glare down there is impossible to see fish in. But look, if I just change my angle to there, I'm moving back here. Look how that changed. You can see the shadow line change there. The actual shadow is moving on the water. The glare is moving. So always try and keep a dark patch of water, like over there. Use these trees up here. You've got a big bank of trees. The sun is going around up here. It's going to be in your face a little bit. The far bank is going to give you your best light. But there, if you look on that shadow line there, there's an excellent chance for spotting bigger fish. Now listen people, these tips don't just apply to Diva Springs. I was at Diva Springs because it's good for filming, it's nice clear water. Any clear water, which in a lot of the southern, or certainly the south of England, there's a lot of clear waters where you can spot the trout cruising. All these tips still apply. Those fish are still going to want to know exactly where the cold water spring areas are. It's up to you to go out and find them. Look at this one laying on the gravel, just on the edge of the picture there. They lay down there, and it needn't always be way out in the middle of a lake. It can also be quite close in. It's up to you to try and find out, you know, the best areas where the trout are. In coloured water, of course, you don't have this facility. And just look at this trout laying there still. He's not happy, would normally be cruising around. They don't like the hot water. The warm water makes them go lethargic. He's just lying there, chilling out. Well, until he gets my fly round about to smack him on the nose, I would think. Okay, here you can see a map of the surrounding countryside. I'll just point out there's the A303, so you can see Diva Springs. You just go up here, go off the filter road down, and you're very, very close. So easy access, anybody wants to go and have a day there. I'm going to pull this one back in, keep bringing it in and bringing it in. There we go. And there, you can see a lot of red there, and I'm going to go in a little bit closer, about there. That's my track line where the sonar was recorded, up and down here, logging all the way. So I'm just going to clear that. I'm going to move the whole screen to there, and I click up here on track. Let's take that red track away, like that. Now you can see it's a much bigger lake anyway. There's the lodge for anybody who wants a lodge there, and you've got stock ponds all along here. A deep hole here, a very large deeper hole here and a big body of water there. But also notice over in this corner there's the stream, there's the small river that runs around and actually skirts the fishery, but in that corner and in here there are some deeper holes. Again, let's just drop on, let's say, before we look at it, we got contours, we also can do layers. So we're going to put on there vegetation. Now you'll see this change now. There is a lot of weed in there, and you can see that obviously still got darker areas here that maybe I've missed those spots there, but it's just a mass of green because obviously it is a weed-filled lake. It's got a lot of weed in there. You've got another setting here called composition. Now I'll just pull up that composition. Now that is very hard area. So that's gravel there. That's a very hard area. So I would say, well, that always has been known as a good peninsula to fish. And you can see it's very, very thick with gravel there, presumably when it was dug. I'm going to go back into layers. I'm going to go to contours. I'm going to pull it up, pull down the contours, and let's go for 12 inches. Now that's way better. Now you can see a huge number of holes. Look, a nice one over on this bend, always a good spot for big fish. There's one, and a couple of big ones for the long distance casters out there. One right in the corner here. Now I'm wondering, because there's a tiny stream you can just see here, going all the way along here, I wonder if there's an inflow breaking, sort of subterranean under the ground here, that breaks into there, feeds cold water in from that stream. There, that's what that could be. So there you go, guys. There's some holes here, here, here. A good general area there. A very good general area there. So not so much along this bank where there's a drop. You can catch fish all around there. But there's the deep holes, and that's the places I really would like to target for those fish that are hard, that are tough in the summer. So let's get back out of the lake and let's see if we can put any of this information, and indeed the lot of rowing. I did a heck of a lot of rowing, and we'll see if we can't winkle a fish or two out, because believe me, it's tough conditions. Let's crack on and see if this information actually can bring me any fish at all. Of course, the advantage with clear water fishing is you don't even have to make a cast until you see a trout. So you don't tire yourself out just force casting all the time and flogging the water to death. You only cast when you have a target to cast to. Another area, don't neglect it. Other than that weed, you've also got the scum that pops up from the bottom of the lake bed in hot weather, floats on the surface, and any breeze will drift it into a corner. There's a patch of scum back there. Now you think, well, there's nothing there. Well, yes, but hang on, it's floating. So it's gone from the bottom to the top. Wouldn't that make a nice hat or canopy like that for the fish, for the trout to lay under? So don't neglect the fact. I can see a really big fish here now. I'm just going to do this live, as it were, see if I can get a shot of this big fish. I'm going to have to hope you can zoom in on this. He's right next to, if I could just get the end there, you see exactly what I've been talking about. Look at that fish. Let me just get focused. I'm going to alter the settings. I don't know whether you're going to see that without a polarising lens. That's as close as I can get. You can actually see right on the edge of the scum that big one. That could be a double figure trout there, to be honest. That's way over 8 pounds. He's just come out from that scum. So I'm going to target that one later on. And do you know what? Hopefully the other anglers don't see it. So that's a bonus for me. If they don't see it, it gives me that extra chance of getting a shot at it. Okay guys, that gives you some idea of some of the places to look for. I better get fishing, because at the moment there's no other anglers. They're all on the big lake. I could have a chance of picking a fish up early here. I'm using a 9'6" pen rod, just so everybody doesn't have to write in. It says on it, IMS6796 graphite 9'6". It throws a number 7 line. It's an American one called a Penn Gold Medal. The reel is an Intrepid rim fly of dubious vintage, loaded with an unknown quantity of fly line. Don't even think there's any backing, a little bit of backing down the bottom there. Probably a 7/8 weight forward, knowing me, floating line. I am using here Sid Knight's Pearly Daddy fly. It's a size 10, that one. And leader, just the length of the rod, just over the length of the rod, so 9'6", say 10 feet of fluorocarbon. I think it's 8 pound, sight free. I'm not a lover of fluorocarbon. I will perfectly admit that I don't really like fluorocarbon for the knot problems, but I've joined it with an Albright special knot to a butt section up near the end of the fly line, and I'm using a loop knot here, and I'm going to show you that loop knot later on because it's tricky to tie you know, in front of the camera. I might even have to do it at home, but I'll try it on the bank later on. That allows fly movement. That gives me an extra edge. I'm looking for edges all the time to try and pick me off a fish during difficult conditions. Okay, the sight free here, this fluorocarbon, it has, I think it's the refractive index of water, so it's supposed to be invisible to fish. Well, I've never had any fish tell me that they can't see it. They can't see my other line. If they do, they're not really bothered about it, so I don't really buy into that one. What it does do is sink fast. That's why I'm using it. It's been coated in a bit of washing up liquid just to get it down. Well, that's enough chit chat, ladies. I need to get fishing. I've seen quite a few fish. I'll try and winkle one out for you under tough conditions by looking where those survey are. I know in my mind where the deeper holes are. I know where the scum is. I know where the rushes, the reeds. I've got lots of little pockets to try, and that's what I'm going to be doing. Targeting fish, pocket fishing we call it. One cast, probably not great big long cast until later in the day. I want to try and pick one off close in if I can before any other anglers come around and spot them. Let's go. And you can see here, you barely need to get the fly line out from the rod ring. I'm just flicking the length of the leader and barely 6 inches of fly line hanging from the rod tip over the other side of that scum patch, because I've obviously seen a trout cruising along there. You can roll cast either way and try and get in front of that fish. Just jiggle that fly up and down. There you can actually see the trout out from the edge of the weed. I cast about 4 feet in front of it, and well, there you go, guys. That was fishing relatively close in. Really nice trout. I bet this one goes over 6, maybe 7 pounds. Cracking fish. Just got target fishing, pocket fishing. Look for the individual fish. There we go, guys. Feast your eyes on a typical diva rainbow trout taken out, stalking. There's a fly still in its mouth, but you know what? There are quite a few not really look at it. That was one really tight into the margin, so I'm going to change flies now. Probably go over something really small like that when all else fails, and I want to try and find that pocket that I can see that's on the survey I did, that pocket of cold water, because they're a bit lethargic with the hot water, and I feel if I can find that cold water I might get a taker. It could be a big one. Mind you, is this not big enough? Well, I've been moving around the lake trying to get hookups. Just watch the next sequence. I switched the main camera off instead of on. Here it comes. After this cast, just watch what I hook up into. It turns into, of all things, a pike. And it gave me a superb scrap, and I missed the lot because I switched off instead of on. The last time I did that was when I had a picture of one shark attacking another shark, biting it in half. I could have had the footage, dwindled footage, and I messed up. Still, good to get that pike, and of course it has to go back. Like all my pike, they get returned. Well, you know what, guys, I'm still shaking. I was so lucky to get that fish in. And no need to kill the pike, I'll put it back. It helps keep down the small fish in here, which of course, that guy doesn't eat the trout. They're too big. He just eats the small fish, and the small fish are competing with the trout. So that's better to have a few predators in your trout water and at least keep the small fry and the coarse fish levels down, because they eat all the insects the trout want. But look how I lucked out on that. I'm still shaking. Look at the fly shaking. It's unbelievable. When all else fails, it's got a sort of pearlescent stuff or light bright, or what I've always said night times with those. He must have just seen that flash in the sunlight. But do you know what I think helped me there? Apart from the fact I was lucky I got him in scissors, I think this fluorocarbon is very, very hard, and I think if it did cross like that, under normal mono, it would be snapped. You'd go through it, but I think if it did go through, I've no idea, it doesn't feel nicked or anything, then like that, I would have lost it. I think that actually did help me being fluorocarbon. I'm still shaking, look at the fly. 60 years on, I'm still shaking, which is what it's all about. Well, that's something. I'm going to go and get some lunch, and then I'm going to go around looking for another fish for you. Guys, pleased to get those 2 fish. It's really, really tough today, but I'm even worse now. The sun's gone, and we've got what they call white cloud up here. Now that creates a white reflection, and you think if the sun was out, you get like glare anyway. Well, you do get a glare, but you can actually find some spots where you can fish. When you get this white cloud, maybe you've heard it on the Weather Channel, occasionally say white cloud, it's like a blanket cloud. When you get this white cloud, it reflects white onto the water, and it's almost impossible to see through. So guys, I'm struggling, but of course I've got up here those sonar readings, a couple of other pockets I'm going to check out. Well guys, I'm on right in the margins here. If I can get this one through the weed, might get him out for you. That one was by looking where I'd seen, let's put that around. That one was for looking but where I'd seen the Coldwater Springs mark. Not a big fish, but listen, when it's hard, any fish is worth catching. Nobody else seems to be doing much at the moment. I think there's just one chap just said he had one of those dry fly, this one on a dry fly. So I'm going to target the edge of that grass that grows up like this and folds over, because I think with a bit of angler activity it's pushed the fish under there, and they could be on the edges just laying there waiting for my fly. Guys, we've got another one hooked up right underneath the scum. I'll just swing it round. You might just be able to see if I zoom in, if I don't lose him. He was right in there, you can see all the scum moving there. Right where he hooked up, he's actually in that scum itself. Now then, how lucky I'm going to get, I do not know. He might even have got rid of me already. Huge piece of weed on it. It's gone through the weed bed and out the other side. I doubt I'll get this one. I doubt I'll get it from there. I'm going to break my fly rod. If I lose a fish, I lose a fish, but I think he's got me. I can see him there, and I can't get him. He's so close to breaking off. Oh, it might have got the weed through. Not going there, So don't forget a hat and those polarising glasses. And listen, although I'm doing this just for the camera, do try and get a pair of sunglasses that don't have a left-hand lens that looks like a snail's gone across there. And just wait till you see the next hookup. Walking along with the head cam, just blipping away trying to follow a fish, and here it comes, you see the actual hookup right on camera. And if you wonder why I'm rushing to walk right down the other end of the bank, it's twofold. I'm trying to clear all the loose fly lines so I can get the fly line and play the fish straight on the reel. And I'm also filming this entire film I've made on my own. Not the helicopter shots, obviously I'm not up there flying the helicopter, everybody, am I? But I have to grab the whole main unit, although I've got the head camera, the heavy camera and tripod has to come down without dropping it, hopefully, and I'm trying to get in touch, in contact with that trout all the time, keep the line tight, because all these are totally awesome fishing films. I hope you get some great tips. I hope you get some great trout fishing.